Good morning, y'all. Josh's Severe Weather. Happy Tuesday to you. Lots to talk about this week as we head into Super Bowl and Valentine's Day, and some interesting weather on tap for us here, especially in the mid-Atlantic and the South. Once again, we've got an active storm track. So I'm going to share my screen with you and talk more about what we're looking at here over the next 5 or 6 days. And if you could subscribe to my YouTube channel, I really would appreciate that because we're going to have some interesting weather to chat about. So, the Mid-Atlantic going to be baking here the next few days, at least by February standards, 60s and 70s. But we've got some interesting features to chat about, and I did post a short yesterday showing just one model run of the GFS. Yeah, I know that's kind of frowned upon in the weather business, but guess what? It's not. Now you see it, now you don't. We've definitely got something that we've got to monitor here in the weekend time frame across the Mid East. Let's call it the Mid East. You know, the Ohio Valley into the Mid-Atlantic region and Carolinas for that matter, and still some changes expected, but you can see on my graphic here that the strong upper low that's expected to move across the Mid-Atlantic region following our first storm could bring in enough cold air aloft to produce some snow for some folks in here. So I'm going to chat a little bit more about what the models are showing and what I think could happen as we get through this video. We'll also chat more about the next couple of days. If you want to submit a weather picture to me, I am very much happy to share with you. Josephine Galvani sent this to me. Beautiful Smoky Mountains in East Tennessee, snow here from December. And I know they're dreaming about more snow and maybe what could be this winter in East Tennessee. So if you want to send me any pictures where I can share, I'll give you credit for it. The email address is joshesseverewx@gmail.com. So Josh's Severe, it's 2 S's. WX stands for weather at gmail.com. I'm happy to feature those for you. All right, so a relatively quiet map from the National Weather Service. Here are your watches and warnings from pivotalweather.com. We do have a storm impacting the Northwest, winter weather advisories in effect for the higher elevations there, and also a storm now beginning to develop in the Southwest and Southern Plains. So we do have winter storm advisories or winter weather advisories out for parts of New Mexico. We also have a clipper moving across the northern part of the country, winter weather advisories for northern Michigan and eastern upper Michigan, as well as interior New England for the potential for some light snow and ice, which could cause some issues here later today. Aside from that, we're pretty quiet. River flood warnings in the southeast. It's been a wet month for sure, wet winter for sure. Some wind advisories across the high plains and foothills of the northern Rockies, and dense fog advisories for the Southern California Valley here, San Joaquin Valley. Interesting. We do have still a very intense low pressure system. I call it a bomb cyclone because the pressure has dropped about 30 millibars or more in about 24 hours. And you can see there's a well-defined circulation off of the East Coast, and that is moving away. It has not produced anything but some cloud cover over eastern New England, but a lot of thunderstorm clouds here over the North Atlantic and some rain impacting the Avalon Peninsula of Newfoundland. But this is a fish storm. It's not going to impact anybody but over the water. But if this were tropical season, things would be a little bit more interesting. But this is heading out. This is our bomb cyclone, and again, not affecting the United States. Let's take a look at the upper air chart from the European model from weatherbell.com. You can see a strong trough, and it's positively tilted, cut off low here in the southwest with a couple of features along that trough, one near Omaha, the other across Thunder Bay, Ontario, and a strong ridge building back into the east. So mild air once again plaguing us this winter in the eastern U.S. I don't want to say plaguing, but allergy season is going to get an early start if this continues. So much of the country has ridging, but we do have this well-defined system that is buried into the southwest, and that is going to draw moisture out of the Gulf up and around this ridge here. So warm air in place across much of the eastern half of the country. And we also have cooler air aloft. This is going to be responsible for some stronger storms as we get late into tonight, but more likely tomorrow and tomorrow night in parts of the Mid-South and Deep South. You can see right on its tail another system dropping down along the periphery of this ridge into the northwestern United States. The two aren't really going to merge, but the second one here over Colorado, this is Thursday morning, will kick the first one northeast. The ridge is waiting for it, so rather than this system moving eastward and impacting the northeast winter weather, we are seeing brief cold at the onset of the storm, followed by rain over the eastern United States, and maybe a little bit of severe weather here where these lines are very tight here, indicating a contrast in colder air aloft with warmer air off to the south. So 1 and 2 right here, this is Thursday morning. number one kind of weakens as it lifts up into the ridge and hits it, while two strengthens. So this is the sacrificial lamb for the bigger storm, which I think is going to impact us here by the end of the week in the eastern United States quite a bit. Now, big ridge in place on Friday. This is Friday now, Friday morning, just off the East Coast. So a very warm day on Friday across the Northeast. I'll talk about temperatures in a second. We also have an amplified ridge in the west. In between the two, a very sharp trough. So this is a very ample upper level pattern, meaning we'll see more extremes out of it. And as we get into Friday night, Saturday morning, we see quite a bit of troughing here, but it's positively tilted, which means it expands aloft from the southwest to northeast. Not favorable for winter weather in the northeast with this. However, as that trough rounds the base of the ridge here Sunday morning, there may be enough uplift to produce some elevational snowfall in parts of the not the deep south, but the Appalachians, maybe into the mid-Atlantic region here Saturday night and first thing on Sunday before the system moves out. So where this ends up is going to make a big difference on what the sensible weather is going to be here Saturday into Saturday night. And oh, by the way, there's another even stronger upper level feature moving into California over the weekend. This is Super Bowl Sunday in Southern Cal. Looks like it's actually going to move out in time for the game, but this will be potentially a bigger problem next week on Valentine's Day across the South with severe weather likely. I'll get more into that over the next couple of days, but look how quickly things warm right back up here in the East. So we're chilly here over the weekend, then we're much warmer again next week, and these are some extremely high heights indicating near record warmth aloft here for Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, and quite a bit of troughing in the west. So this is about as extreme as you see here in February and in midwinter. GFS, the track is a little bit different here. You see 1 and 2, and of course 2 kicks 1 out, and as we get into the weekend, this trough is actually slower. This is early Saturday morning, and this is Sunday. The European had it over Virginia Beach area, while the GFS has it back across the Carolinas and Georgia. And this may lead to enough lifting aloft for maybe some areas that haven't seen snow yet this winter to perhaps see a brief amount of snow. So I'm going to talk more about that. And then, by the way, Tuesday into Wednesday, we have a very well-defined feature here. Not a lot of agreement being that it's a week out yet, but the one thing that we do see, strong ridging taking place off the East Coast and spreading back into the Great Lakes. A strong trough in the west and a cutoff low out ahead of it, meaning likely we'll see some severe weather as we get to Tuesday and Wednesday of next week in parts of the South, and that includes tornadoes. Here is the European, and I'll show you all the surface map. Here's our clipper moving across New England today and tonight, and our next system building across the deep south. There'll be potentially a little bit of severe weather later today into tonight. Also snow developing from northern Oklahoma up into central Iowa. This low is trending a little bit farther west, meaning more rain for eastern Iowa than snow until we get to Thursday morning, and then a change to some heavy snow on the backside of this storm Thursday morning. Here's the next feature dropping south. It really doesn't look like much here Thursday night, but as we get down into Friday morning, we see that colder air aloft starting to spread down, meaning some light snow into Illinois, Indiana, maybe even eastern Missouri here Friday evening. And then Friday night looks like we'll see a change over to some snow showers in the northwest facing slopes, middle Tennessee, parts of Kentucky, and especially eastern Ohio for late Friday night. It's still wet up the East Coast, though. We've got kind of wave 1 expands Thursday night, Friday morning into New England with rain changing to sleet or snow changing to sleet, then rain. And then Friday night, Saturday, wet across the southeast all the way down to Florida, and low pressure will track up the East Coast. The European says it's not making quite the connection, but there will be some snow possible here Saturday evening in the mid-Atlantic, but mainly rain. However, the low pressure track continues to be suppressed more to the south by this trough, whereas a few days ago, and I could show you that, it had it coming up the East Coast. So this is a less favorable track for New England to see snow here Saturday night. The GFS, though, is showing us some very interesting looks here. We again see a similar track here up into the Great Lakes Wednesday night into Thursday, and then across the Northeast on Friday morning. Storm number 2, though, getting its act together a little bit more robustly here on the GFS, and this is Friday night. Potentially some wet snowflakes as this upper low is buried back here all the way down into western and middle Tennessee, northern Alabama, Mississippi, and Kentucky. And then you can see it stalls here, a bit of ridging here up the East Coast, and we have a well-defined storm system that is getting ready to crank out some snow over the mid-Atlantic region, mainly the interior, but possibly getting all the way up into Maryland. And it's a lot slower. This is Sunday morning, showing snow all the way into the Carolinas. I don't think this one particular model run is necessarily going to nail it, but it may be onto some sort of trend here that we need to be watching here for Saturday. And this is Super Bowl Sunday in Philadelphia during the game, showing quite a bit of snow falling. Could be very interesting. The model does not show that much consistency on timing, though. You can see the run before it has things faster, but does have snow kind of across that same region. This is the 0Z run of the GFS. Here's the 18Z. So the 18Z and the 0Z are more in line with each other, whereas the 6Z is burying things farther west. So this is kind of an outlier, and I'm tending to believe more this run than the run before it, meaning not so much in the Carolinas, but more so across Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, Southeast Pennsylvania, South Jersey, and maybe clipping Southern New England as well before it moves out here Sunday. Next week, we warm right back up with our next dynamic storm system, likely to produce some severe weather Tuesday night into Wednesday. And finally, I'll show you all the Canadian model here. I've got to speed things up on this video. And we can see here's the upper level low Friday night, trough digging back. It's positively tilted. And then as we get into Sunday, everything is suppressed and the upper low doesn't have enough moisture to tap into. And this would be kind of rain and end with a few mountain snow showers. So quite a bit of a difference in the models here, with the Canadian being the most suppressed, the European kind of in between the two, and the GFS showing an all-out snowstorm, although a wet snow, for Saturday evening into Sunday morning. All right, so we still have a lot that can change being 5 days out. That is one thing I'm going to share with you guys now. But I'm going to do my best to provide you with all the details so that we can try to hone in on this potential system as we get towards Friday and into Saturday. We'll have a better feel for what's going to happen. All right, so here's 24-hour snow from the European, and we see Storm 1 across New England here. That moves out Wednesday. Storm 2 producing snow across the northern plains and upper Midwest. Heaviest across Wisconsin and eastern Iowa, northwest Illinois, and then spreading into northern New England, taking that northern track across Canada. Storm 3 is going to be moving through the Rockies and northern plains, lighter amounts of snow, but you can see kind of a second wave forming here over Indiana and Ohio. This is Friday evening, and then tracking into western and central Pennsylvania, New York, and northern New England on Saturday, with some snow accumulating all the way potentially to Nashville, Tennessee, and northeast Alabama, northern Georgia, in the mountains mainly. And then that moves out of here by Sunday, with the next storm moving into California Saturday night, Sunday morning with heavy mountain snow. And then that moves into the southwest early next week. The GFS, again, looking different. And I will zoom in. Here you can see storm number 1 over northern New England, moving away from Michigan this morning. Storm 2 from New Mexico spreads into Iowa, kind of jumps over Kansas and Oklahoma with accumulating snow, but heavy snow over central Wisconsin, northern lower Michigan, Wednesday night and especially on Thursday. Storm 3 over the Colorado Rockies and Central Plains, and then that continues on through Kansas into the St. Louis area and downstate Illinois and Indiana for Friday night, and even some accumulating snow all the way into Middle Tennessee and northeast Mississippi here Saturday morning. And then we see with the GFS, because it's delayed, it is able to pull in enough instability to produce some snow here over the mid-Atlantic region. This particular run shows it in the Carolinas, and I will zoom in because this is kind of interesting to see. Let me see if I can find here we go, Shenandoah. GFS, again, it's an outlier, so I'm not saying this is definitely the forecast, but boy, is it hit areas hard with heavy wet snow. For Saturday night, especially on Sunday, we're seeing 12 to 18 inches over a large corridor from northeast Tennessee into New Jersey and maybe New York City. I'll zoom out so y'all can see that as well here. This is just one model run, though. This is definitely not a guarantee. The run before, as you can see, is faster and not nearly as heavy because it's moving out quicker, but it does have snow kind of in the same region, and that does include southern Virginia and far northern North Carolina. And then the run before that is kind of more in line. So the 18Z and the 0Z are at least in some agreement. The 6Z, though, is so much slower that it's just dumping here and produces a sizable storm here. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens with this. But things are definitely looking interesting for sure. The Canadian model just says, no, we're not really looking at anything here. Nothing to see here. Moving on this weekend. Just some snow showers on the backside of our trough here for Saturday. Across the lower Ohio Valley into the Smokies and into the interior Northeast. So the euro and the Canadian are not necessarily sold on this yet. The GFS is going bonkers, and that's what we're going to have to watch. Rainfall also an issue here over the next week. We'll see 2 to 4 inches from central and northeast Texas into Missouri, as well as the central Gulf states. And also across the southeast, 1 to 2 inches of rain potentially. So it will be another wet end to the week here. GFS has even higher amounts over Oklahoma and Arkansas, 3 to 5 inches of rain and significant rain all the way up here. And a lot of it's going to be frozen over parts of the upper Midwest. So I'm sorry, northern New England. There, I'll get it right for you, I swear. And you can see the GFS just really dumps a lot of rain here out of these next 2 storms, especially the first one. Storm Prediction Center has a marginal risk for the upper Texas coast into eastern Texas later tonight mostly. Tomorrow it now has a slight risk over Louisiana, Mississippi, and southeastern Arkansas. And day 3, let me shift east for you, has a marginal risk over the eastern Gulf states into Georgia. So mainly strong winds, but maybe an isolated tornado. Best chance is going to be later in the day tomorrow. The NAM model shows our rain area blossoming over the Red River Valley this afternoon into this evening, and heavier storms tonight, spreading north into the colder air across Oklahoma and northeast Texas, and then into Missouri by tomorrow morning. Arkansas could have a few heavier storms tomorrow. Here's our main line, though, tomorrow evening. This is 6 o'clock Central, just east of Lake Charles and Shreveport, heading up towards Little Rock, and we could see severe weather out of this line in the evening hours tomorrow night before that moves east through Tennessee after midnight and into parts of the middle Tennessee Valley and the lower Ohio Valley here Wednesday night with the heavy snow on the backside. Then as the instability weakens some at night, we see a lesser chance for stronger storms on Thursday, and it may not be a huge deal here over the Gulf states as well. Finally, we'll look at temperatures, and then I'll wrap it up for you guys. Very warm the next couple of days in the eastern U.S. That continues right on through the end of the week, but colder air follows here over the southwest and south central states on Friday. That'll spread eastward over the weekend, and a chillier day on Saturday and especially Sunday over the southeast, but it does bounce right back here early next week with some very warm air in place over the eastern U.S. Quite a bit of contrast in here, which is why we'll have heavy snow in the interior west, maybe severe weather down south, and mild temperatures next week in time for Valentine's Day and the days after. Not a wintry look at all, unfortunately, but we're seeing more back and forth, and it looks like the weekends is when it gets cold. This is the ensemble from the European. So what that leads us to are temperatures today, very warm in the southeast. As we get to tomorrow, it stays very warm, but turning colder in Texas, turning colder in the northern parts of the country and the Rockies on Thursday. We may have near record warmth across Florida on Thursday. Friday, still pretty warm here across the southeast, turning colder in Texas and the south central states, much colder in the upper Midwest on Friday. As we head to Saturday, moderating here, but colder across the mid-Atlantic region, 40s and 50s on Saturday. Sunday potentially could be colder than this. Right now, the National Weather Service says 40s and low 50s, but if our storm is slower, that could drop 10 degrees. So Super Bowl Sunday, a great day to stay indoors before we do start warming back up on Monday to above average temperatures. Thank you all so much for your time today. I hope you got a lot out of this video, and I really hope that you have a chance to subscribe if you haven't already, and like this video, share with your friends, and follow me along on Facebook as well. I thank you. I thank everybody in the community who's submitting photos, and I want to thank God who allows me to do this. I want to thank Jesus Christ, my Savior, which is the very reason I am here on earth able to share with you, and it is very much a blessing. I want to share a quick passage with you that spoke to me very quickly for last night. James 1:2, trials and maturity, something we all struggle with. Consider it a great joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you experience various trials, because you know that the testing of your faith produces endurance, and let endurance have its full effect so that you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing. Now, if any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives to all generously and ungrudgingly, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith without doubting, for the doubter is like a surging sea driven and tossed by the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord, being double-minded and unstable in all his ways. And that really spoke to me, because I'll be open with everybody. I had a frustrating day yesterday, and it's very easy to get on here and share my faith. And I'm not going to say I'm, rainbows and puppy dogs here, but I like to keep things encouraging for everyone. But then going through Monday and having a difficult day at work, having some challenges with the family, I got double-minded and I was unstable and I let my attitude get the best of me. I let Satan win out, and I just can't do that. And I know a lot of you are dealing with stuff as well in life. I get it, and I'm here to pray for you about that. But being double-minded and unstable in all your ways is not what God wants. God wants you to trust in Him and not doubt that He can provide for you. It's very easy to know your faith. It's very easy to love one another, but then it's also very tempting to get online after a bad day and start trolling or flaming people online, or to say negative things to your family and throw them under the bus. And I got to do a better job of that. So that's why I wanted to share this verse with you. And I just ask for you, if you are struggling in your faith or you are in denial that God exists, it's okay, because I have been there. But know that you will be tested and tested and tested and tested. And the Lord wants it to be a great joy that you experience these trials and understand that God is there for you in the end through His Son, Jesus Christ, who's been brought here as a sacrificial lamb for you to be saved eternally. So take joy in knowing that. Take joy in knowing that the Lord is there for you, and that one day all the trials you go through will provide a victorious end and an eternal life. So I wanted to share that with you because it means a lot to me. And if you have any prayer requests, I am more than happy to pray for you. And I have others that will do the same, because I think it's very important to speak to God and acknowledge that He's there working in our lives, no matter if you have a sucky day like I did or not. So don't let it hit the fan without acknowledging God and say, God, it's going to be better. I just need to lean on you a little bit more here, not try to do everything myself. Thank you all so much for your time. God bless you. We'll talk again tomorrow. Have a great day.